Hey everybody, happy Monday. Today is Monday, February 12th. I'm sorry I had to look at that. Welcome to the TED Show. We're with my friend Clay Ferrara, and he has very kindly agreed to be on the show today on a crazy Monday. I think our lighting looks pretty good. Let us know that you can hear us or see us, because that's so important. But Clay has been, we have been trying to get Clay on the show, and he got sick, didn't feel good. So Clay, you're on. Do you see us on? I just want to make sure everybody. Dana Williams is on.
Yeah, we're
live. All right, so let us know you can hear us and see us. There you are. Welcome. You are sharply dressed today, my friend.
It's only how you roll out of bed on a Monday, Ted.
What he told? I said, is that a handkerchief? You know, you think I have a little bit of clothing understanding, but you definitely had something else on, and you said no, it's an ascot. Okay, so tell them a little bit about it, because it's a fascinating story. So I told you I had no idea where I was going to go, but we're definitely going to go with that. Welcome, everybody, by the way.
Yeah, hi, everyone. Ted, thanks for having me on the show. You know, I stumbled across you on Facebook doing this and thought, this is very interesting. You know, I really like anything that gives a spotlight to local people, and reached out, and, I had to kind of go through, a dark time of illness first. And then
yes, you had the flu.
Now that I proved my survival, here I am being able to be on the show.
You got through the first step. You weren't voted off the island.
And natural selection. Yes, but no, this isn't a bandana or
bandana,
something like that.
That would have been a good one.
I'm not ready to rob a train if I pull this up over my face, It's a cravat during the day, and then if you tie it in a different way, it becomes an ascot for nighttime.
I love it. Cravat?
Cravat.
Okay.
C-R-A-V-A-T.
Cravat. See, I'm learning. Yep. I'm learning. Even at my old age, I'm learning. Libby Smith says, yay, Clay.
After enough martinis, you can slur like the French.
Yes.
And it just rolls
that's
off
really
the
what
tongue.
happens,
Exactly.
honestly. I'm part French, so that's how it goes. All right, but I love, so we joke about the fact that we don't do a whole bunch of R&D, but I did post the bio that you provided. Give us a little history on you.
Yeah.
You were born, I just learned this because I asked you 5 seconds ago. You were born in Chile.
Yeah, I was born in Santiago. And I've lived in Florida for most of my life, originally South Florida, and grew up in Martin County in Stewart, and somehow survived that.
I was going to say, I had an office there. That seems very, very low-key for someone like you.
It's a fascinating place, but one thing that Martin County does have going for it is beautiful natural places.
That is true.
And I really came into my own in understanding the world that I live in there. So that was very important.
That's important.
But, did the whole aspect of, being told since middle school that the purpose of my education is to get into college thing. And when I turned 17 years old, was fortunate enough to get into Rollins and moved here to Winter Park and never looked back. I've been here ever since. So,
and why Rollins? What was the...
I love this story, and whenever I say it, it sounds totally nuts, but it really is the truth.
You're on the right show for that.
It really is the truth. So I traveled up to Orlando to visit a girlfriend who was older than I was and had already started college at UCF while I was still in high school.
Nice.
And
there's a story there.
Yeah, right. And in doing so, from where UCF is, wanted to go find Thai food. And this is, and to show my age, this is the age of MapQuest, where you'd print out the directions,
to show
and you would have them to flip through to
Our
see
maps
where
were
you're
in
going.
hieroglyphics, so don't even go there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So no handheld GPS, and I'm driving and get lost. Keep heading down what turns out to be Fairbanks, wind up on Park Avenue and Rollins, and go, who the hell lives there? Thinking Rollins is somebody's house.
Nice.
And everyone that I'm with in the car goes, well, that's just some business school for rich kids. And we go right onto Park Avenue, and of course fall in love with how beautiful it is, and all of the wonderful things to eat, and the attention to detail in the city planning, and all of these kinds of things like that. And I come home back to Stewart, where I lived, and in the mail had come the very first piece of solicitation for me to go to college from some place called Rollins.
Wow.
And I go, what the hell? I was just there, you know?
That's
And
serendipity
it
right
was.
there.
I saw that they had a biology program. I toured the campus, and this is pre-hurricanes of 2004, right? So the trees there were even more epic than they are
Right,
now.
right.
And just thought, you know, I want to go someplace that is small and can give me the kind of education in biology that I want. That's a very kind of bespoke naturalism type thing, which is what I'm into and have always been. And really from that, I just applied and got in.
And you fell in love with Winter Park and stayed.
Of course, Rollins has changed my life. You know, there are truly not enough good things that I could say about it.
And you received your degree from their biology, which we have to talk about that. Why biology, first of all? What was the interest? Were you always interested in biology, even as a kid?
Yeah, I came out of the womb like that. You know, I think that, well, I don't know. You know, I have a very creative heart and soul, and I'm deep down, I'm a poet. I mean, even in my current role, I write for a living. For the most part.
So I would say that you're the way that you are, the way that you look, and the way that you speak, it's very poetic. So biology is such a science, for lack of a better word. I know that was brilliant of me, but you know what I mean. It was very scientific, it's very data-driven, and observation too.
Yeah,
but how interesting to choose that.
It's not as dry as that. You know, it's kind of the thing to where if you are awake and your eyes are open and you look around the world, you'll notice that the thing that contains the most truth to be able to learn is nature. And being in 2000's 21st century, right, you're surrounded with the extraordinarily beauty and truth that exists in nature for all things, including the human condition, plus a terrifying host of extraordinary problems that have to be solved.
Right.
So that made me a conservationist and made me want to use my talents and and gain a whole new level of responsibility for the world that I live in, that exists outside of the borders of my own body and out of the borders of my own, you know, family and friends and circle and those kinds of things, to take a global responsibility for not just myself and humanity, but also all life.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because you can read, when you read some of the articles that you're in, the videos that you're in, the newscasts, you took it as a responsibility. You can sense that this is something that you actually feel, and then you made it pretty much your life's work so far. Now, he's a young life's work, I have to tell you. I won't tell you his age, you can look it up, but you've accomplished a lot and are working on so much, and to take on that kind of responsibility, and I know that you're sharing it with other people, but you feel like you are tasked with whatever you have to do and accomplish to conserve, to empower sustainability and things like that.
Of course. It's all about quality of life, right? I think that everyone wants to use this sliver of time that they have alive in the best way possible. And that usually means helping other people and righting the wrongs of the world and stopping suffering. I feel as though people who are older than me, right? Because I've heard this shit my whole life. I've heard people say to me...
Got a word, people. Everybody's been watching. I think that might be our first swear word.
I'm so pleased. And, you know, I've heard this my whole life, to where I remember being 12 and 13 years old, going to a Audubon Society meeting or Sierra Club meeting or something like that. Bob Lee with 32, you lost on The Price is Right, too high. And,
I thought he was talking about me, but thanks, Bob.
And, you know, I would attend these meetings. I'd be the youngest person there by quite a bit. And, you know, people would be like, oh, you're volunteering these different places, you're doing so much, and all of these things. I feel like that's a really dangerous outlook, that age has anything to do with accomplishments. The only difference is I was fortunate enough to decide what I wanted to do early in my life and pursue it. But I think that anyone at any age can make that decision.
What was the catalyst for you, though? So were your parents... I always ask this question, because people always say there's always something that happened early on that either was the catalyst, that was the epiphany. Were your parents encouraging of that? Did you always know that you wanted to be that, or were you introduced to it and some light bulb went on?
goodness, my parents are extraordinary people, and what they did was to just encourage me. And I think that for many parents, and for my friends that I see who have become parents, the things that they want is, of course, for their kid to be happy, right? And to feel fulfilled, and to have a life that's safe and is fulfilled. And the difference that makes, that I see in my friend group, because Martin County was a very rough and tumble place to grow up.
It really is.
I see the difference that it has made in my life compared to others. So there were many things. I mean, like most, kids growing up in the 80s, I loved dinosaurs, and I loved sci-fi, and I loved, looking at, dreaming about what the future could be. And I think I got very early on ingrained that the state of the world right now is something that can be changed and manipulated and improved. And that the same people who invented the rules and the laws and the companies and the businesses and the infrastructure of this world are flesh and blood just like me.
Agreed.
And that if I don't like something and see that it is marginalizing people or harming people or destroying the environment or serving an injustice, that it's my responsibility to change it, and I can, because they're no better or worse or anything. They're just flesh and blood like I am.
Right.
So, but a good thing that I just remembered while saying that is I want to do a very special shout out to Charles Darwin and Abraham Lincoln today. 209 years old they would have been if still alive, or if their heads were floating in a jar and were animated, or
you never know.
You never know, something like that. And 209 years ago, both of them born opposite sides of the planet, but would live in a time period that was both extraordinarily different and frighteningly similar to where we are today. And boy, the world is a different place because of both of those people. So it's an exciting thing to be in a kind of reflective mode.
Sure.
Today.
I like that. And then tell them, since we're on Darwin a little bit, in your bio you talked about mulberries, and I think that's such a great story.
Yeah.
And I just think I love little anecdotes like that. I think it's so awesome. So tell them.
One of the joys of my life was I was selected and was the only American to win this award, which is really humbling. I didn't know that until I arrived, and everyone else that I was with was from India and China and around elsewhere in Europe and all of these things. But the Field Studies Council brought a group of us out to London for an extraordinary couple weeks of traveling around, and eventually the culmination of this was traveling to Darwin's home. And Rupert's here. Shout out to Rupert.
Hey, Rupert.
Hi, Rupert.
We love Rupert.
And to travel to Darwin's home, and there outside of one of the windows of Down House outside of Kent is this mulberry tree. And I also had the pleasure of my guide that day was Darwin's great-great-grandson.
That's amazing. That's such a great story.
Yeah, and being able to eat, mulberries off of his tree with his great-great-grandson was bizarre. And knowing that, for starters, it was the biggest mulberry tree I'd ever seen, right? Mulberries aren't particularly beefy trees, but this one had quite the trunk on it, being, well over 100 years old. So extraordinary stuff. Those kinds of experiences are icing on the cake.
Sure.
This kind of work and what I do professionally is difficult stuff. It's going against the grain, and it is trying to do things that are inherently difficult because they're the right thing to do. And there's so many benefits that come from helping people and healing the planet and scaling solutions that grow prosperity in communities that that's the real work.
So talk about your work, Ideas for Us. Give them the background of that. Ideas is obviously an acronym. I tried to remember what ideas stood for, but I failed miserably a little while ago, so we're going to leave that up to Clay.
Ideas has a wonderful story. It stands for Intellectual Decisions on Environmental Awareness Solutions. And if that wasn't a mouthful enough, when we evolved from a college club founded by Chris Castro and a group of students in 2008 at UCF, and we became a nonprofit, we added the "for us" on the end of it. So now we're called Ideas for Us. And what we do is very simple. We realize that the solutions that we need to advance humanity and to heal the planet are only going to come from bottom up, not top down. And that means activating people on campuses and communities around the world to come together, educate themselves, organize, and do work that has the potential to change the world. And that work is something that we provide technical support for them. We help them to develop projects. We even fund projects through a philanthropic arm of ours called the Solutions Fund. And it is a really, really important program helping people that are farthest from sustainability. So these types of things really show people that they are not helpless. They can take control of their situation in their own lives and on their own campus and in their own community and in their own country and all of these things like that. And that's a really big deal. You would be surprised how many people never take that first step to action because they are too fearful that they can't do something.
Correct.
That they can't make a difference, that they're wasting their time, that they're foolish in thinking that they can. And what that does is they become an object of their own oppression. And
which happens a lot,
I'm
right?
both saddened by how much that happens in the United States, but also very much so aware of this occurring around the world. I've been fortunate that in my education I did research on 5 different continents, so that when I kind of sat into this role with Ideas for Us and we became an international organization, I had no problem traveling to some places that would really give people the willies in some cases. And
I think people, though, let me tell you really quick, Eric says, great working with you, Clay. Ban on fracking bill to be heard in the 2nd committee on Wednesday. Love you both. We love you too, Eric. I think people they're not sure what to do because they'll listen to a show like this, and I get these private messages all the time. Ted, that was amazing. I'm inspired. What do I do next? So from the listening to the show, they get excited, and then that next step is scary for most people. They've either heard too much information, they've Googled it, and they think they're the expert, but they become immobilized, they become paralyzed, and they don't know what to do. So if somebody is watching the show today and they say, hey, Clay, I'd love to get involved with what you're doing with Ideas for Us, what would be the first step? What would that look like? How are they going to get their hands dirty? How are they going to get involved?
So we're really unique from a lot of nonprofits. And what makes us unique is my favorite part about us. And it's that you can be anyone from any walk of life, of any age, of any background. And all that you need is the conviction in your heart that you want to do something and that if presented with the opportunity, you're going to do it, right? And unlike a lot of nonprofits, we have a direct way to do that. If we were an organization that maybe dealt with complex health issues or only dealing with a refugee crisis on the other side of the earth, or feeding people who are completely destitute, it's hard to have a direct line to be connected to these things in your community, but that's not the case with us. So number one way to get involved is to just come to one of our free meetings that happens on the first Wednesday of every month. It's called The Hive. And The Hive occurs on the first Wednesday of every month at East End Market. And East End Market is located in Audubon Park. We have the meetings on the 2nd floor from 6:45 in the evening, not in the morning. I said that to someone and they were like, oh, 6:45 in the morning? And I was like, are you insane? No.
Are people awake
Who
then?
does this, right? So I said 6:45 p.m. We always have free food. which is generously donated by many of our sponsors, most recently Florida & Co., and it was an extraordinary spread of food that they provide for everyone, because we want you to come there, and we don't want you to be hungry and looking at your watch and waiting to leave, because it's an interactive, intergenerational, interdisciplinary think tank. And what we do is we educate ourselves with a lecturer on a specific topic, but then we go into a breakout. And we have everyone work together using human-centered design to come up with ideas, turn them into an action project that we then carry out on the last Saturday of the month in a program called an Umaganda. And an Umaganda. And
I love all these words.
And an Umaganda has a fantastic story about it, because myself, Chris Stampar, shout out to you, I know you're watching from Miami, and also Sharon Hammond and Karine Gilbert, myself and this wonderful team traveled to Rwanda in June of last year, 2017. And what we were doing was working on a documentary and rolling out a bunch of different action projects, looking at how did Rwanda go from the worst thing that can happen in your country, which is a genocide, to now being considered number one in the world to be a woman on the African continent.
I did not know that. Also,
the highest level of solar in their country. Plastic bags are illegal throughout the country. They're not facing many of the same problems that other African countries are. Well, why is that? Well, the answer is very simple. Very, very, very simple. Empowering women. That is the difference.
Wow.
Their President Kagame, after going through the genocide, said, we will never become a country again if half of our team is on the fence.
Right.
Meaning women.
Sure.
Right? And so they changed laws for where women can inherit land, start businesses, vote, do all of these kinds of things just like everyone else. And it made all the difference.
How did they go from Hotel Rwanda, which was so powerful?
Sure, I've been to that hotel too.
Oh my gosh, that was a powerfully, just heartbreaking movie.
Yeah.
I did not know this, so this is good news, because I always thought Rwanda, it's all genocide. I didn't know. That's the other thing that always surprises me, and I wish it was better. I wish we knew more about the positive changes that are going on around the world, because there are positive changes. So
yeah, I mean, it's something that we try to highlight as best as we can.
That's awesome.
You know, as an organization, we never. Oh, well, let me finish the Umaganda story first.
Umaganda, because
so the Umaganda story came from one of the things that happens is on the last Saturday of every month, the entire country shuts down. No businesses are open, including the government. And everyone volunteers. The entire population volunteers to do something. The president is out there in like gym clothes with a shovel, helping to build a school or all of these things. So we said, we're bringing that to the United States immediately. And we now have brought it to the Orlando community. And Sharon Hammond has done an extraordinary job doing that. And
what does it mean?
Umaganda. So it basically means just a day of coming together for a purpose, and we, love that aspect. It also makes it so that if someone comes to the meeting on the last Wednesday of the month, the first Wednesday of the month, and then an action project on the last Saturday of the month, it gives us a humane amount of time to plan what is going on and what's going to happen.
This is not bothering me.
But yeah, okay,
it is me.
Okay, all right, close.
There.
Okay, sorry.
We're good. Everybody's good.
So, really, really exciting stuff there.
A couple of people commented, and I wanted to tell you. Pete Crotty said,
let's talk,
Caribbean-soul.com. This is what I've been doing, promote green products. He said goodbye. He had hung up. Libby Smith said amazing. Nina Marie said wonderful. Jenny Joy, hey, we love you. She said hi, guys.
Cool.
But I just like to give them shout outs, because I love for them to come in and participate. They're watching, and you want them to continue to watch the amazing things that people like you are doing all over the place. So continue.
Yeah, so that's how the Umaganda works. So the Hive is one way that someone can get involved. If you're a student, Ideas has a presence at a multitude of universities all over the state of Florida. Over the years, we've done action projects and had a presence at almost every single university across Florida. But students graduate and all of these types of things. 2018 is a really big year for us because February this month, we just had the Hive turn 5.
Wow.
Fleet farming, one of our most exciting, wonderful programs led by Lee Perry and Caroline Chomenique, is now 4 years old. But Ideas as a club began in 2008 in a dorm room by Chris Castro, and that means 10 years.
That's amazing.
So it's really an exciting time for us here in 2018.
Do you feel empowered I feel like 2018 has different energy. I don't know if we're creating it ourselves because of all that's going on in the world and we've just decided to create it and make it, but it feels like people are moving forward regardless of what else is going on around them and trying to make progress and creating the positive energy.
Yeah, it goes both ways. People are certainly stirred to action. And in the United States, it's an unfortunate thing that is often followed by a political characterization of whether you're happy or sad about how things are going right now, because there's certainly people on both sides of that fence. And regardless of that, I think that everyone can agree that our country, our hemisphere, our species, our planet is not where we want it to be.
Correct.
And that we have to change that. And that the fact that so many young children in the United States are going to bed hungry every single night, but we're throwing away 40% of the food that we create, that people are literally dying of medication that they can't get while pharmaceutical companies are registering record profits, that we have the biggest threat to our national defense as a country. I know I like the idea of feeling safe, that we're not at threat from the rest of the world, and you have the United States military-industrial complex saying the number one threat to our country is not Russia, is not China, is not terrorism, but is climate change. And these are some of the smartest people in the entire world, so smart that they are not only the people who create the missiles and rockets, but are in control of the buttons to shoot them.
Right.
And here they are saying, without a doubt, this is absolutely the number one threat to American safety. If you think about every port in the country going underwater, goodbye Manhattan, goodbye Miami, the list goes on and on. And to realistically see that as something coming in the next 50 years for us, it would be totally nuts. And these are things that I don't want to see kill people because of ignorance and hubris. So as an organization and what we do, we have no political affiliation, we have no ideal set that goes in either direction. I think that there's no time for that in philanthropy.
We're just trying to do the right thing, regardless of whatever side interprets it.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that almost everyone can agree on.
I agree with you.
That helping people and healing the planet and growing prosperity in the community are three things that do not have to be separated, right? Look at fleet farming, for example. People came together in the community with the Hive. We identified food issues as being a food sanctity and food security in the community as something that we needed to work on. We decided to put in one garden and test and see how things went. We funded it with our Solutions Fund, and were able to come up with all different kinds of data to see that it worked. Yes, we were able to grow food. Here's how much of it we were able to grow in this amount of time, and saw that it makes sense. It can bring the community together. It can feed people. And we said, let's take this solution and now scale it. We have over 20 farms in Audubon Park now. We're moving into Paramore. And there were some wonderful articles and wonderful attention that came out recently about the expansion into Paramore that Lee Perry is leading. And it is extremely exciting for us. We employ some amazing young female leaders who are among the best in the world. and they're the first urban farmers in Orlando's history. We did that as an organization because it's what the community needed, and we stepped up to do it. And these are things that are creating jobs, growing economic prosperity, bringing food to high-end restaurants and to also people who need it and don't have food. And we're also healing the planet, stopping dangerous runoff from going into the springs and into our aquifer. We're, turning lawns, which is the most wasteful garbage that you could possibly have outside of your house, and into actually a diverse, biologically rich, wonderful organic garden. To me, there's nothing more American than that. And also being self-sufficient and self-reliant to be able to grow your own food, that is something that we are frighteningly losing. You talk to people who are older, your grandparents, especially if you're fortunate enough where your grandparents are still around and they're from Depression era, and they'll tell you all about gardening. But their kids and their grandkids, it's this huge void that's been taken out of our culture. And that connection to the earth, the patience that comes from it, the community that comes from it, is something that we desperately need because it's part of the human and American condition. And that's just with farming. The projects that we do with energy, with water, with waste, with ecology, helping refugees, drilling wells, right? Because there's that community element of the hive that exists to bring people together, layman and expert, 6-year-old to 60-year-old, right? Whatever it may be, makes a really big difference. I remember the very first hive meeting we ever had, and
I love the name, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's the idea is you have all of these amazing people in the community out there making their own honey. Right. And wouldn't it be great if you could bring them back to a central location every month to then activate them and get them to become excited about something? Right. So much sorrow exists in the world from young people, and especially adults, and especially the boomer generation, because they are lost, feel that they don't have a way to directly contribute, feel disconnected from their friends and family, don't have a community. And the very first hive meeting, I remember watching a 17-year-old high school student from Winter Park High School have a conversation with someone who was well over the age of 70. And they talked all night after randomly sitting next to one another at this meeting. And I remember saying to Chris, I said, when the hell would this ever happen if they weren't related?
Right.
And even then, when you go to, my God, Thanksgiving, how much time do you really spend talking to your grandparents, right? Not a whole lot.
And not having
for
that
like an hour, right?
conversation,
Talking about the very first hive meeting, we were talking about a concept that we had called the 5 Pillars of Sustainability, and how we list out these huge global challenges: poverty, climate change, malnutrition, lack of food for people, not enough access to fresh water, biodiversity loss. And we charted those out, and then once we had a list, which is very easy, we then said, okay, how does every single one of these manifest itself in Orlando?
Very cool.
And we then created that list and said, all right, now we have a blueprint of what we need to work on. How are we going to create projects that address these things with measurable solutions and data, so that we can then snowball this this concept? And when you're sitting next to someone you've never met before and you're having a conversation about something like that, it's life-changing.
It's so powerful what you're doing. You're encouraging people to have a discussion that they normally wouldn't have, and you're creating an environment where they feel comfortable finally expressing, or you're giving them an outlet, a platform to do something that they believed in all along.
Yeah.
So I hate to wrap up because I hate this part of it, but we're going to post all of Clay. I know it goes fast, right? Comments. I miss Glenda. Thank you, Glenda, for coming on. Craig, you too. You have somebody who specifically said, "Look, I'm watching."
Masareka, it's wonderful to see you, my dear friend.
So we're going to post all of Clay's information, how to contact him, how to reach out to Ideas for Us, and access all of the information that we have spoken about today that Clay has very graciously shared with me and with everyone.
Pleasure's all mine. Just a shameless plug, of course.
Please, shameless plugs are good on this show.
We have some really exciting events coming up soon here in Orlando. As we get into April, of course, that's Earth Month, and we're super excited about that. In addition, we are really wanting to bring people together in the community in an unprecedented way. Orlando is leading the charge in the nation on what a sustainable city can be. And shout out to Mayor Dyer and to Chris Castro, who's our sustainability director for the city and president of Ideas. And we're going to see our city become a global city with its eyes in the right direction of the 21st century. An unprecedented amount of renewable energy, autonomous vehicles. We're one of 10 autonomous vehicle testing grounds. We're going to have a smart grid here soon. We already have a system where food waste from hotels is being separated from regular garbage, being gasified in a biodigester, and then going directly into garbage trucks that are out collecting waste. Wow. So from the waste, we're creating a fuel that is fueling these garbage trucks. And there's so many more different types of innovations that are happening here in the community from these three sectors of civil society: the public sector of government, the private sector of business, which is an area where all of these business leaders, I'd love to talk to you about how to engage you with ideas for us. And then, of course, in the independent sector, which is nonprofits. And what nonprofits do is what the public sector and the private sector can't do or won't do to push humanity forward and to make better quality of life for everyone in our community. So it's an honor to be on your show, Ted.
What a blessing. Everybody loved the show.
It's been a long time coming.
I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all that you and all of your partners and team are doing for the city. I feel very blessed that we are in Orlando, because I feel like you said, Orlando's on the cutting edge of so many things, especially when it comes to sustainability. Here we go with that word. But I appreciate all that you do with Ideas, with the Hive. You've been amazing. So we'll post all of the information on how to reach out to Clay. Thank you so much for being on here. I really, really appreciate it. It was a great show.
Pleasure's all
mine. Great
mine.
energy. Awesome. I could listen to you talk for hours.
I'm so sorry.
No, I love it. It's awesome. So we appreciate you guys. We love you. Catch the show. If you're a lot of people are just tuning in, we're gonna post it in a minute. You can watch it afterward. Thank you guys for tuning in. We love you. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.